Welcome to Art of Wellness Unscripted, the podcast where we dive deep into holistic health, real conversations, and the journey to living your best, most vibrant life. I'm your host, Amarah Tiller, and each week we'll explore the art and science of wellness with inspiring guests, expert insights, and practical tips you can use every day. Today I have a new guest with us. Her name is Carrie. Could you share a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I am Carrie May. I love numbers. I've been working in the finance industry for over 20 years. And 16 years ago, I came into learning about numerology, and numerology is the science of numbers. And so I've been learning and practicing and doing readings with numerology for 16 years.
So that, for those that don't know what numerology is, a little clip of idea with that would be like the angel numbers, right, that people see.
Yeah, numbers are it's the science of numbers. Every number carries vibration, just like a thought, a feeling, a word can either lift you up or bring you down. And numbers are not positive or negative, they just are, and they just carry a vibration. And so it's the study of numbers, and that's where you break everything down to a single digit between 1 and 9. And you can do that with mailboxes, you can do that with dates, you can do that with birthdays. And that's primarily what I do with somebody's numbers if we're going into a reading. And why is it so important is because if you can understand your numbers, you can maybe get a better framework of kind of what your life path is, kind of your self-expression. And more importantly, if you know the birthdays of like your loved ones, you can get a better idea and sense of who and how you might be able to better interact with them as well. So it's not about prediction and living your life by literally the number of the day. It's more of like a weather report or also a framework. You know, people's lives look different living in Arizona that they do in Michigan. They're just a different framework. That's it. And that's kind of what the numbers give you when you look at your name. And you can go deep into a rabbit hole as far as you want to go, but I find balance is key. So I came into numerology literally at one of the pinnacle moments in my life. There's 4 pinnacles that all of us have in our life journey here, and it's broken down by the numbers. And it was funny because at the time that I was introduced to numbers and I started to really resonate with them was also at a time where the first pinnacle of my life was ending and a brand new pinnacle was beginning. And so, divine spirit has divine timing all, like literally if you can follow the path and not fight the river and flow, you can go wherever you're not even expecting to go. And so that's kind of what started my journey with learning about the overall numbers.
Love that. I've heard of advice for people when buying a house to do the numerology of the street number, because the number that it adds up to
is the vibration that you might carry on the house.
Yeah.
So do you want to get into what the numbers actually mean and how that can help people?
Absolutely.
All right, very cool. So everybody's got a calculator these days, so you can add anything up. So really, the primary thing is to getting it down to a single digit. Do you want me to use your birthday?
Do it.
All right. So let's say that we have a birthday of August 14th, 1990. You take 9 plus 1 plus 4, which is 5, plus 1 plus 9 plus 9 plus 0 equals a 19 or a 1, which is a 15. So then you break it down to a 1 plus a 5. So your life path is a 6.
It's actually September 14th. I'm like, what's going on with did I text you wrong date? But did you do it right? September? Oh, you said August.
Oh, I said August. My bad. Nope, it was a 9. Okay. A 9 plus 1 plus 4. Okay. All right, very good. So basically, you come up with like a life path number. Okay. And then when you add up your name, so your breakdown, each letter of your name breaks down to a number. So A is 1. Okay. So when you break down your entire name and pull out the vowels, you get your heart's expression, like what your heart really wants out of this lifetime. The consonants add up to your self-expression. And so when you kind of paint those pictures together, it gives a little picture about who you are. Conversely, if you were to take a home, for example, and add up what the number is, it carries that vibration. So let's just kind of go through what the basics are of numbers first, right?
Yeah.
How's that? So let's say if the number 1 is kind of like, and I'm going to use a garden analogy. Number one is like starting something new. You're planting a new seed. You got to stand on your own 2 feet. And so the one vibration is very much about standing in your own groundedness, being a leader. Now, there's polarities with numbers, okay? Numbers are neutral, but we also have to balance life out. So somebody with a one life path, okay, who is out of balance, could be on one extreme where they rely on everybody to do everything because they have to learn to stand on their own 2 feet. Conversely, you could have the control freak that does everything on their own and doesn't ask for any kind of help. So ones are all about balance, and true leadership is actually about honing in the gifts and talents of not only you, but the people around you, right?
Mm-hmm.
A life path 2. So think about it. Balance. You've got a 2, a 1 and a 1, one on each side. So 2s like to bring balance. They like reciprocity. They like give and take on equal kind of measure. Okay. And so 2 is like letting that seed in the ground soak up the nutrients from the dirt, the sun from above, and to start making something new. That's where the sprout starts to come and push through the ground. So 2s can sometimes also be pushing forward together because you're creating something new. 2s on one hand could be over controlling, and then on the other end, they could be people pleasing. Okay. So when 1 and 2 things come together, a third thing is created. And so if we stick with the garden analogy, you've got this little sprout finally coming out of the ground from being planted and then nurtured. Okay. So 3 is really about joy and creativity and creation and birthing something kind of new. Kind of like babies, right? You got to take 2 to tango to make a third, right? So 3 carries this like joyful, playful energy, like of a 5-year-old running outside, swinging on the swing set. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4, going along with the whole like garden analogy. Once you start with little seedlings, you have to transplant them in other spots to take root and grow.
Okay.
So 4 is also like a box. I want you to think about a box. It's the getting the practical elbow grease stuff done. It's not always fun, but you know what? Life has to have a balance of both.
Mm-hmm.
So 4s are really about structure. It's really about elbow grease. It's building. It's the nitty gritty kind of work. Okay. And some people thrive in that. If they're a 4, they really are. They could be my friend Tim is a 4 in some areas of his life. He's very much the engineer that really feels satisfied when his checkbook is balanced, or that the lines are accurate,
Mm-hmm.
or that what he's creating is right on with what he's lined up. So it's that kind of structure. So on one end, somebody could be overly structured and compartmentalized. On the other end, they're totally unorganized in their life and they need to learn structure. See how theirs could be a stark difference. So once you get some practical work in, 5 is all about freedom. Don't hold me down. I want to get out of the box. I've had enough time with the elbow grease. I want to go and do some adventure. Don't hold me back. So 5s are kind of like that full-fledged expression. It's kind of where the flowers are finally starting to come out of the seedling. Like they're pushing through. They've had the nurturing, they've had the structure, and now they're ready to expand and just literally soak up the sun, right? So that's what 5s are all about. They also like change and travel. So some 5s have a hard time settling down, okay, on one extreme. And if those 5s that are settled down, if they don't have an outlet of expression to go and be and do themselves, then they feel contained. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
6. So think about 6 in the garden analogy. You got a full-fledged happy flower, and guess what comes along as a bee? A bee to pollinate, right? Let's make some creation, baby. And so to come up with a 6, you have a 3 plus a 3. So you have joy and joy coming together to make more abundance out of what you've already created. So 6s are really about home and family and also balance, because you have a 3 and a 3, and that requires balance as well. So I found a lot of people that have 6 life paths sometimes are either striving for that perfect family home that they have idealized in their brain, or they have it and they maintain it. So it's either a chase or they can maybe receive. But one of my former friends, she was a 6 and she just was like the baby whisperer. Like she definitely could pick up on babies and what they needed and animals. Like she was very much kind of a home person and they enjoy that. And then we move into 7. And I don't have the best garden analogies for 7, but basically once you're pollinated, you take faith. You have to have faith that the magic is going to do what it is. And 7s are all about faith and internal. 7 is more of an internal compartmentalization of your spirit. It's kind of like the 4, but in a spiritual sense, in the 7 inside. Okay. And so that is like more of the hermit energy, the Hierophant structure, internal, and walking with faith. 8 is now an outward expression, and think about it, as above, so below. Okay. And so if you do the right work or you do good effort on the first 7 steps, what can come to you as an 8 is what your soul craves can be manifested here on earth. And so an 8 in balance is beautiful. It's kind of like the priestess calling down to the magician on what she wants to create. And he hears her and he creates it. Out of balance 8s could be very narcissistic people that love to attach to people that of the things that they actually want and maybe don't have the courage to create that for themselves. So that could be on one extreme. And then you could also have the other extreme of where that individual could possibly play all day in the ethers in what they want to manifest, but never do the practical work to actually make it come about. Or you could have a person that is literally trying to create everything here on earth and never tapping into their spiritual gifts to actually make it come about. So 8 is really all about finding that balance between the two. And then 9 is release. It's harvest time. You pick the fruit, you can it, you eat it, and it's done. And so 9 is really about compassion, seeing the whole process for what it is, but also releasing it with love. So when I've done readings for people in a 9 life path, they could be the person that is literally working at the nursing home, caring for everybody else, pouring everything that they have for compassion and love for other people and never giving it to themselves, literally wearing themselves to nothing. And then at the other extreme, you will have somebody who has very selfish tendencies that needs to learn compassion and needs to learn to give and receive in a loving way. So it's very interesting. So that's 1 through 9. Anything spark any questions in that? Like,
I love how every number makes me think of like yin and yang, the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how like it happens in physics too, you know. So a positive and negative charge is like that.
Yeah. So that's kind of what you can carry when you get down to a single digit, whether you take it to a day, an address, or something as deep as like a life path, self-expression. We are in a universal 9 year. So if you take 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, it equals a 9. So right now for 2025, it's all about endings.
Ooh.
It's all about releasing of what is old and not serving any longer, tilling it up and making something new. You know, some people say we just need to like scratch everything and start all over. Well, I don't do that with my garden. I take the remnants of what's left from the season and I till it under and I tuck it in because guess what? Worms eat scraps and they poop out gold. So, you know, this year on a collective level, we're all in a letting go of an old.
Pooping out gold.
Pooping out gold, baby. I mean, you know, don't complain about the scraps and don't get mad at them. Be grateful for them and give them to the worms. Let it do its thing, because next year collectively we're stepping into a 1. And that doesn't mean that we're going to be all in kumbaya. It's still going to be chaotic when you're starting something new and learning something new. It's sort of chaotic, but you learn as you go. You grow as you learn. And that's what next year is going to be. It's going to be kind of like, well, what does this look like now? And where do we go from here? And whatever you don't release, you drag with you. And so what are we willing to let go of? So next year will be a 2026 will be a 1 year. And then we'll go into 27 with a 2 year. So I think if you look at the numbers as a collective, we're moving more into some calmer waters, but it takes chaos to kind of get there. And not everybody's going to be happy, especially if they're clinging to hanging on to what was instead of accepting what is. So I always say that there's when reality clashes with my illusions is when suffering occurs. So it's really about just kind of looking at it is what it is.
Accepting.
So when we're doing readings for people who are looking at your numbers, let's go into the seasons, okay? So we get your birthday, and that is how we come up with your main life's purpose, which is going to be your hardest challenge in this lifetime. And so it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy and you embody it. It's something that you're like working towards, like running a marathon. Mm-hmm. You've got a goal of a marathon, but you got to do the training and the work to get there. Okay. And then when you take 36, don't ask me why it's 36, something with Pythagoras. But anyways, 36 minus your life path number gives you your first pinnacle. So if you're a 6 life path from 0 to 30 is your first pinnacle. So it's kind of like the weather report. It's kind of like we're in spring or we're in summer or we're in winter. And again, seasons are, there's nothing good or bad. There's always positives about everything. It's just kind of what is the weather report. And so when you break that down, you can then kind of see what the overlining tones and maybe higher lessons are for that. And that's when I learned about numerology, is literally coming to my first end of my first pinnacle was the tower moment. Everything and everything. It was a 9-year end of a pinnacle cycle. Everything that was not serving me that I didn't willingly let go of came down like a crushing tower. And it's humbling to get your ass handed to you.
Yes, it is.
So, it just can kind of give some guidance for people on looking at what is maybe some, and it's funny because every pinnacle in somebody's life, if I've done a reading, there's been like a death, a birth, a job change, a marriage, a divorce, something that had to shift.
Yeah.
And in the moment, it may not feel good, but in the long term, it's always a good thing. Mm-hmm. So.
Let's tell me about my birthday.
Okay, so.
What am I?
All right. So I have the absolute pleasure to do your numbers for you, Amarah. I took your name and your birthday, and I got it right. September 14th, 1990, correct? All right, very good. So I'll just go over your core numbers, and then I did take your whole name and break down your expression and your destiny path, your heart's desire, and then your personality. And this is kind of fun because I met you for the first time today.
Yeah.
So I think I know maybe more about you, and I've never met you just because of your numbers. So when I add up your birthday, it breaks down to a life path of 6. So you are the nurturer. You're here to love, support, harmonize, bring beauty and responsibility. And your lesson is to avoid over responsibility or people pleasing. Overextending yourself for the pleasure of others, making sure that you're taking care of your home, and you are the heart of your home. So you need to come first for taking care of that. But people probably if they've got a problem, they call you, or if they need a soft soul to land on, you're that soft place to land. Mm-hmm. And you probably have some good guidance and wisdom as well. That's probably balanced, where you look at probably both sides of the situation. When I add up your expressionary, your destiny number with your expression, you come up as the 3, which I smiled because that is the communicator. 3s also communicate creativity and expression. You are the communicator, natural talents and creativity, self-expression with humor, uplifting others, and storytelling and speaker energy.
Oh, hits it right on.
It hits it right on the head, doesn't it? But what's fun about you is that your soul's desire, your soul's urge is literally a 5. You crave freedom, adventure, variety, new experiences, new expressions, and you don't want to feel like you're boxed in. You probably get itchy if you feel like you're living in somebody else's boxes of expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to run.
That's me.
But your personality on what people see also from you, or maybe first impressions, which was the one that I got when I first met you, is you're very thoughtful and wise and intuitive. You carry the energy of a 7, kind of like a wise elder. Your presence is very calm and inviting all at the same time, but carries a hint of wisdom and curiosity, meaning I'm curious to get to know you. Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing about having that is people sense the depth and spirituality that you carry because it's who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So how did I do?
You did really well. Okay. I'm covered in chills right now.
First pinnacle timeline. So from birth to age 27, you had that probably fiery spirit overtone of don't box me in because you had the 5.
Mm.
So freedom, adventure, and variety, you probably was hard to nail down. You might have been distracted, maybe even at school, chasing the next adventure, not because you lacked anything, because you just wanted to experience it. Not knowing you or your family, you also might have been a problem for your parents because they just wanted to keep you on the straight and narrow and you wanted to fly like a butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, okay. But that's okay because that's who you are, right? From 28 to 36, you will be carrying the 6 energy. So that's a double 6. You'll have the overtone energy of this home and family and creativity in that space. You might be more of a homebody. You might feel more at peace at home, whether you have family around you or if you're alone. And then that's also your life paths. But they can also be kind of annoying too, because you're stuck with yourself. So during, that time frame, and then you still each year carry a number for your personal year, if you think about it. So we all have our personal year, and then your pinnacle is just like the overtone of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your third pinnacle, which will be from age 37 to 45, is going to be in the 11-2. Now, let me talk to you about angel numbers here after we get through this, okay? So your third pinnacle is an 11-2. It breaks down to an 11, but because it's one of the master numbers, you still add 1 + 1 to equal a 2. So that'll be more illumination, spiritual leadership, spiritual awakening. So all of the work that you're doing right now might feel maybe a little bit on the practical level, but you are creating a home, whether it's creating not just a home you live in, but like the world is your home, like your people that you surround yourself with. That is your home, right? And then in the third section of your life, you'll be bringing that possibly to more awakening. So everything that you're building now is just another layer onto what will be birthing later on. Okay? And then in the last part of your life, you're going to be carrying the energy of the 1. You have to be independent. You'll be doing new beginnings and new leadership. So who knows what else you'll maybe feel itching to create in the later part of your life.
A lot of things.
Yeah. So that's just kind of an overall of what I do when I'm doing numbers with people on a podcast. I'm not going to jump in it any deeper, but that's kind of gives you some idea on kind of what it is that I do. Any questions for me?
On that? No, that's just really fascinating. It makes me think about this. I can't remember what it's called, but some personality tests, and it's like 1 through 9. So I just wonder how this would align with that if we ever compared.
Yeah.
The two.
Yep. There's different metrics that sometimes businesses have you go through personality tests to see like who you're working out with and stuff. So we talked about 2025 as being a 9 year, but you can also break down your personal year. So if we take your birthday, 9 + 14, plus the universal of 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can come down to what is your personal year. So if you're in a 1, you're going to be starting new beginnings. If you're in a 2 year, it's more about partnership and balance. If you're in a 3 year, it's about more creativity. If it's in a 4 year, you might get stuck with doing practical, boring, but necessary work. 5, you know, you might be seeking more adventure and travel. 6, you might be working more on home. 7, it's an internal journey of compartmentalizing of what stays and goes so that the 8 year can manifest what your soul wants. And then the 9 year might be about letting go and endings, which is lovely and painful all at the same time. So you can add things up to get to your personal year. And then if I know your personal year, which thank you for giving me 2 of the family members that you're closest to that you wanted me to give, I came up with their personal years. Okay. And so if we looked at the family member in 1992, their life path is a 7.
Okay.
So that is more about faith. They might have had a hard couple of knocks in their lifetime that they've had to overcome because that's kind of the tower, the tower life path sometimes. But if you take their life path as a 7 and minus your life path as a 6, the way that you two play nice is when you both meet through independence, leadership, and fresh starts. Somebody has to be the leader. You both can't be the leader. So if you're butting heads, it's probably because both of you are trying to both be the leader.
Sounds about right.
Does that sound about right? Okay. And then the other birthday, 1957. And then this leads into the master numbers I wanted to talk about. Their life path is a 22-4. So 22 is also a master number, along with 11 and 33. And 22s are really practical people because a 2 + 2 is a 4, right? Practical, put it in a box. They might be a little OCD. They like to have everything planned out, organized. They want to know what's happening, when's happening. They want to know the plan.
Yeah.
Okay. But 22s are very intuitive. They might know things, but they don't know how they know things because they're so practical. Does that make any sense? So if we take your 6 minus 4 for their life path, the bridge number between the two of you is 2. So the way that you play nice with each other is when you meet with cooperation, peace, and patience and sensitivity for each.
That resonates very well.
So that's how it can also be really important to know on how you deal with other people. My sons, their life path is a 3. I'm a 7. So that's a 4.
Yeah.
So they want the way that we play nice is when I tell them I've got a plan, here's the plan, and here's what we're going to do. And they also can say if they want to do it or not. They have a contribution to it. They know what's going on and they're good with it. My daughter, who's a 2, I could call her and be like, hey, let's go on an airplane and fly out tomorrow. She'd be there in a heartbeat. You know, we play nice when we have adventure. We have a 5 energy. Okay?
Love all this. Yeah.
So let's talk about the master numbers. You mentioned earlier, like some people see numbers or repeating numbers. And I do think that those are sometimes messages to pay attention to, not just the message itself, but what's going on around you in your life at that time. So master numbers carry a certain kind of energy. So like 11s would be more like the balance because it's a 1 + 1 is a 2, but it carries a lightness energy about it. It could be like, I want to say elementary school, but it's not to downgrade an 11 energy. It's more innocence and playful and authenticity and creation. Okay. Light angel numbers. Okay. 22s are like high school, practical work, doing practical things. They're the builders. They're intuitive builders. So that's what the 22 would carry. And then out of all the years I've been doing readings, I've only done found two 33 life path numbers. And 33 is like college. It's the Christ energy.
Ooh.
Okay, so 33s are very sacred. They have a lot of reverence, but it's not any more or less than the 22 or the 11 because they all play their parts. And so 11, 22, and 33. Now there's some karmic debt numbers, okay, that can also kind of carry along with that, that you can learn about. So 13 is a number, and 13 is also a 1 plus a 3, which is a 4, which is really about learning to build your own structure. Instead of giving away your power, learning to claim your power, and don't make excuses to underperform. Don't cheat on your own heart. Pull up your bootstraps with the 1 and get practical about creating what your heart wants and make it. That's kind of what the 13 is. It's not a bad number. It's I'm going to spank you on the ass and wake your ass up a little bit kind of a number. Okay. Then you have a 16-7. And I know this number very intimately because my life path is a 16-7. And 16 really is about standing in your own power, 1, and breaking, in my opinion, generational karma with the 6 and the family lineage.
Ooh, I love that.
Okay. And quite often 16-7s can be the black sheep. I definitely am the proud black sheep of my family and more than one family. But every time that you go through that, you realize that living in illusion is, after a while, like the Matrix, it's unsatisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't set your soul on fire. You're just existing. And that's where the 7 comes in, of going into that internal faith and that internal restructuring and believing in yourself. So 16s can bring a lot of tower energy. I've learned that if I don't see the illusion first and bring the walls down of the tower that I'm building, it'll fall on my own damn head.
Ooh.
And so that first tower that I encountered in that first pinnacle taught me how painful, if I don't learn to take down the own tower, the tower that I'm building myself first, it'll fall on my head. And then you have a 19. 19 is also a karmic debt number. It carries the 1 plus the 9. And it's really about, when you add the 1 plus the 9, it equals 10, which is again a 1. Okay. And the 19 is really about looking at your independence and letting go of maybe that people pleasing, of building a life on what people expect of you instead of what you want for you. And so 19 is really about sometimes walking away and building your own life in reverence and self-respect. And it takes independence and a lot of courage. Now, here's the thing with numbers, and then also just kind of life in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's all hard. It's hard to stay where you're at. It's hard to grow where you want to go. It's all hard. None of it's easy. I think, though, after you get through a few barriers on moving forward through the hard stuff, you realize how much lighter and freer you are. You're not carrying around a bunch of stuff that actually isn't serving you. And I really think that a lot of times this world gives us enough distractions to not allow us to wake up to who we really are.
Yeah.
And that's really what I think the chaos of the world is nothing but a distraction to finding and listening to who we really are in ourselves and claiming our own power, not out of ego and out of look at me, of just pure reverence of, the gifts that we actually have. And so that's kind of what the numbers can give you, as an opportunity to change. And I have found that if I don't take up the first couple of lessons, Spirit isn't giving up on me until I'm smacked upside the head. And I think sometimes people either take up the mantle and run, or they still continue to repeat cycles and patterns. Again, repeating old cycles and patterns is unhealthy. And breaking through, and it's hard. And then we get excuses for why we hurt everywhere and our life isn't where we want it. We get to mull and play in the pig pen of excuses for our life. Or we can have the courage to kind of move forward. And then on the other side, you'd think that some people would support you for that, but you'll find more naysayers than you won't. But in the meantime, you'll also find the people that do in your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all hard. It's hard to live a half-lived life. And it's hard to break through and live your own life. And so, the numbers kind of can give you an idea on when might be a good time to at least reflect on what challenges you've got going on in your life at that time. So it's fun when I do readings for people. I'll pick up on other things outside of just necessarily the numbers, on kind of what might be going on. I had a client that just came in the other day and she was glowing. And again, this wasn't about numbers, but I said, and she's 92. Okay. And I said, well, you're looking pretty sharp today. And she goes, well, thank you. She was like glowing. I said, you got a hot date later today? And she smiled. She goes, how did you know that?
So there's still hope at that age.
Well, they keep telling me that. They keep telling me that. But, and, working with people for over 20 years in finance, I get to see their life and what they've gone through. And I have found that the people that live from passion and authenticity and good heartedness, being a good human being, they look younger than they are, they act younger than they do, and they actually smile more and give more and are a safe place to be. I have found that people that don't get out of cycles, that stay in patterns and loops, they have serious health problems later on in life. And they complain a lot and they have aches and they have pains. And that doesn't mean that there's not medical issues. You always go to a medical professional for that, of course, but it's just patterns that I see, especially with people and also in numbers.
That makes sense with like the health side. If someone's conditioned in a sense where they're repeating, right, their thoughts are negative or whatever. I just had somebody on who specialized in live blood analysis, and she was teaching me how looking at blood, depending on certain shapes that show up in the plasma, will indicate if someone's struggling with like anxiety and depression. So it's not that your blood is causing the anxiety and depression. It's the anxiety and depression is manifesting, affecting you on your health level. Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know if anybody has heard of Dr. Emoto. Yes. So Dr. Emoto in 1997 was doing studies with words on vials and creating pictures. And if you think about it, again, with the words, they break down to a number, which also breaks down to a vibration. So it all comes down to vibrations, right? Whether you're looking at numbers or a vial, it all comes down to a vibration. And absolutely, prayer, positive thinking, if most of our body is made up of fluids and we're carrying around, old thought patterns. And then I've also, noticed that a lot of times when we're pulling out, I love garden analogy, when you're pulling out the daily mental weed and feed of the things that are no longer serving you, it hurts. It's hard work. It's not easy. And then there's a hole left after things gone. And it's amazing how the body can have physical symptoms as you're moving through these purging things. Whether it's shakes and crying, whether it's a headache after processing and pulling, or if it's I come home from work and there's no reason why I had not a bad day, but I was integrating something and I'm on the couch for 3 hours taking a hard nap because my spirit was like, you sit your butt down, it's time to rest, right? So it's really about, like I always told my kids, my job as a mom is to keep the clouds away from your sunshine.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Kind of on the topic of Dr. Emoto, in school they taught us about, naturopathic school, about speaking into the existence. So, for example, when it's cloudy, to speak and like demand, right, the clouds to move. I know it sounds like far out and woo-woo, but not this summer, but the summer before, me and my girlfriends went to like Michigan for one of their birthdays, and as soon as we got there, it was freezing. The sky was full of clouds. We don't even want to take our clothes off and wear the swimsuits because it's so cold. And I was like, you guys, I learned this like crazy thing at school, but let's just try it. Let's pretend. And so we all like use our mind and we're thinking clouds are gonna move. We're gonna have a great day.
Yep.
15 minutes later, the clouds moved, not a cloud in sky, and it was a beautiful day.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's very, powerful when you set out your intention from a purity of what you actually genuinely want to experience versus out of ego of lack and to get things.
Yeah.
I had written out a vision. I had gotten to the buckets once in my life, as many of us have. And I thought, well, screw it. It's just a piece of paper and a pencil. And the worst thing that's going to happen is it doesn't happen. And I wrote it on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a lot of vision boards for years. It's amazing how things just kind of happen. And that's the fun and the magic, is setting out the intention, but not kind of trying to control how and when it happens.
Yeah.
But I had written out a vision statement of the kind of home I wanted to live in, what it would look like, what it would feel like, even weird quirks. At the time, I didn't have my third child, and I really wanted a third child, even though my ex didn't want one at the time. And 3 years later, I'm sitting in my bed. I had read it every morning and every night, and nothing was moving. So I tucked it in my journal. Kind of forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 years later, I'm sitting in my bed, pregnant with my third child, and it falls out. And I read it, and I'm like, oh, I remember writing this. But I had forgotten like 3 distinct details that I had written into my home that is not in every home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who has a sunroom off of their master bedroom?
Yeah.
I do. And I wrote that into the vision
Oh
statement.
my goodness.
And the house I have has. So I've been terrified to, write out something new unless you really know that that's clearly what you want. Sometimes life has to show you the things that you don't want for you to figure out what you do want.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing a vision board for a while now. I saw the documentary The Secret.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really kind of sent it. And then my friend, she was really into it. And I remember she created a vision board where she took this photo out of a random magazine. It was some old, house, White House with pillars. She was on vacation. It's a photo of this exact house. I can't remember what state it was in, maybe South Carolina, or I can't remember. But she like Amarah. And I was like, what is going on? It's eerie, but a good eerie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I play in magic all day long. My staff and I, we giggle a lot about how things just show up, or I'll mention somebody and she'll run into them, or I'll say their name and they call.
Yes.
Right? So that's why I think that we really are creative, powerful beings, that the distractions just don't want us to realize that none of that really matters because I can't change it. But what am I really feeding my energy into? Is it stuff that really matters or not? Because I don't want to go back and be like, yeah, I half-assed it. It's like, no, I did it all, because I really think that I signed up for the PhD version in this lifetime. I want to go home and be like, yep, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I might be bruised, but I did
it. So for the numbers, so if someone wants to do their straight number, you've got 4 numbers. Do you add the first 2 together and then you add the third to the first 2, or do you is there a certain order?
No, you just add. You can add it straight across if you want. You can add it the 1 plus the 2 and then the 4.
So it doesn't matter the formula.
No.
You get the same answer.
Yep, you do. You just need to break it down to a single digit. So if you get a 35 after you add them all together, just add the 3 and the 5 to get your single digit.
So if my straight number is 2655, so 2 plus 6 is 8, plus 10
is 18.
That goes in 9.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 is, what's the energy of that?
It's about compassion. And surrender.
Oh, and surrender. Okay. Let's do one more. 1690.
So 1690. So 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 6 is 16. So it's a 16-7.
16-7. Oh, because
16 breaks it down to a 7.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So
Yep.
it's a 7.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is.
What is that?
I'm trying to remember. I'm looking in the garden right now. What is the 7? I don't remember.
Okay. Well, that's okay. But yep, I have numbers by Carrie May at Gmail as my email if anyone wants to reach out and do a personal reading. But yeah, creating my first. I'm in the editing process of my first book, and I got some other cool stuff fun coming out. So maybe when I have something else new to add, we can come back.
I love that.
Yeah. What other questions do you have for me?
Well, back in vibration numbers.
Yeah.
That makes me think of. I remember learning the Hebrew language is the language of vibration. And so I saw where someone had a vibration plate and they put sand on it.
Yeah.
And then they would speak in Hebrew. And the sand would move and it would literally create the symbol in Hebrew for what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is, it's just very interesting of how everything's just like a vibration.
Yep. And numbers are just one of those tools.
Yeah.
You know, you were speaking about the brain waves and meditation. That's another tool. Astrology is another tool. You know, my friend Rosetta, she's got gifts and talents and talks about, you know, her homeopathic and taking drops to help heal and balance out what's imbalance in the body. Prayer is really, really important. I've written up some very strong sacral prayers of clearing and cleansing and bubble and, you know, protecting my energy. So words carry so much power. Numbers can carry vibration. What we write carries vibration. And it's about alignment more than creation. I mean, creation is alignment instead of forcing things to kind of overall happen, and having faith to do things that are different and move in that direction, because none of it's easy. But being in alignment of what you want might not be what you've got right now, because you need to let go of what you're carrying around. Why are we carrying it around? If it fills you and brings you lightness and adds value to you and you add value to other people, that's fantastic, right? That's an equal give and take kind of relationship, whether it's with your work, people in your life, the career that you're doing. So, but yeah, I'd encourage people to just at least break down their personal birthday and then also look at their personal year to see where they're at. So I know I've got your numbers and I don't like making mistakes, and I didn't have my calculator right in front of me. We've got, you're a 6. So you're actually in a 6 current life path, or you're in a current year of a 6. So if I take the universal energy of a 9, 9, hold on. Should I get this right? 9. 9 plus 9 is 18, right? Which breaks out to a 9. Yeah, no, you're in a 5-year. Well, I'm not going to do that. Let me get my calculator. 9 minus 18. You're in a 5 personal year. So you might be feeling like you need to find some freedom this year. Got any travel plans made?
No travel plans. But I feel that though.
You feel like you want to get out and do something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that also goes with your heart's expression too. Yeah.
Yeah, back to the vision boards. I think it was like probably 2 years ago I created one. And at the time I had like just learned about this chiropractor's name is Dr. Brian Artist, and he's been sharing about pretty crazy stuff when it comes to COVID and some truth that he's uncovered. And I remember learning that he was going to be coming to my school conference. And so I wrote on my vision board, I took a marker and I just wrote his name. And the intention was behind it. It's okay, I want to manifest being able to shake this man's hand, because I am just like blown away by like the work that he's done, you know? And so I go to the conference. Mind you, that was my only little goal, was just to shake his hand, you know? And I was so nervous. I remember my partner at the time was encouraging me. He's like, just go out there. And I was like, I'm so shy. Brian Arson's up there just surrounded by so many people. And so it's kind of intimidating. But I did it. And I finally get a moment where he has like a second. And mind you, he's surrounded. And I'm like, I just like word vomited. I was like, I wrote a whole entire research paper because of you. And so that got his attention. And next thing I know, we're talking, and he tells me, he goes, send me that research paper. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, send me the research paper, and then I want to have you on my podcast. And I was like, wait, what? He's like, I need more people like you. And I was like, me? I'm like, is this real? And then I remember like leaving that conference and driving home. I was just high on that. It felt crazy to drive, to operate a car. I was like, no way, that just happened. But anyways, Dr. Brian Artist, if you ever listen to this, I emailed you my paper. You have not responded. I'll put that in my next
Well, I keep putting Leonardo DiCaprio on mine just because it would be so far out left field that I don't even have to shake his hand. I could just be in the airport and be like, see, Susie, I manifested Leonardo DiCaprio. I had done a writing conference out in Colorado with Hay House Publishing and Wayne Dyer.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of Wayne Dyer?
No.
So you might be interested in learning about Louise Hay. She actually wrote the book You Can Heal Your Life, and she takes a lot of the physical symptoms that reoccurred with a lot of people that she noticed in therapy. They also had the same physical symptoms along with the same thought patterns. Mm-hmm. And so she decodes what the ache is and what might be the associating mental pattern that's looping. And Wayne Dyer's written a whole bunch of books, but I had a publishing thing. And when I had gone out there on a leap of faith, and I'm just now publishing my book years later, but the high that I had from just literally being around high vibrating, authentic people is so intoxicating. It's better than any drink you could ever have. And I literally remember flying home on the airplane and felt my whole energy just start to drop because I was away from that core amount of people that carried as much high vibration that I did. Mm-hmm. And so, think about how you feel when you're around people. I'm way more sensitive today to that kind of environment. But yeah, Louise Hay would be a fantastic, she's passed away. And then coincidentally, Wayne Dyer died on the same day she did, but years later. Ooh, yeah, just like interesting things like that. And, but like, for example, my bunions, my mom's side of the family, bunions for all the women. And I thought it was just something I would have to be like subjected to, right? And in her book, she talks about how bunions are when life's become a damn chore. Oh. Okay. Like it's just a damn chore. Yeah. Right. And so when I notice that they're flaring up and I'm like, I realize I'm not taking care of myself, I stop and check myself. I haven't had bunion problems in years. Growing up, I had ear infections, eye styes, ringworm, constant, like styes in your eyes that they had to go in to remove. Okay. Ooh. Styes are about, I don't like what I see. Ear infections are, I don't like what I hear. Mm-hmm. Ringworm is when somebody is under your skin. And, my childhood home was not probably, let's put it this way. It's places where demons definitely were granted access as tenants. And I definitely disturbed the peace by being a little like being in that house. But, ringworm, sinus infections are about being irritated by somebody close to you. And that person could also be yourself. Louise Hay, it's a nice little kind of a guidebook. But her one book that I got about 6 months after learning about numerology, her book that I got was like a piece of art. Every page had color on it. It was positive affirmations and poems. And then in the meat of the book was about what she noticed over years of therapy work with people and her stories at the back of the book.
Oh, that kind of aligns with things that I've learned in my program at school is naturopathic. They teach us you can't just focus on the physical. You also have to focus on your emotions.
Yeah.
Because it impacts the physical, and that's something that Western medicine just avoids,
There's just medicines that kind of go along with that. And eating good foods. Christine Northrup had done the study about how even if you plant a garden, the plants will pick up on what nutrients you're lacking in and will generate more of those nutrients for when you eat because you're putting your hands in the dirt and tending to the garden.
Actually, I remember learning if you put a seed in your mouth, so your saliva, your DNA, and you plant it, it's going to grow to attune to you.
Correct.
And it's similar to when a mother's breastfeeding her baby. Mm-hmm. The saliva of the baby gets into the breast and it communicates to the mom's body what exactly that baby needs.
Exactly.
It's so cool.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. It's wild what reality is,
Yeah. It is kind of whatever it is that we want to make it. And whatever you put your energy towards, is what you'll see more of. So,
Yeah. Have you learned anything regarding numbers, like when it comes to people passing? Like, could maybe the day they pass indicate something? The date of that?
well, the energy of the day would carry that vibration, whether it's in their personal year or a personal day for them. I found that it's been interesting how I think people have more control over when they go sometimes than we think. I've had several clients that I think, it's the stories that you're told about so and so left the room or so and so came into the room and that's when they went. I think that we have some say in kind of when we go. I don't know about the going, I don't know about the coming, but I do know that when the birthday is here, then you've got at least some framework on what you've got a chance to maybe work with in this lifetime. Because I also think that I think that whatever you don't do, you get another opportunity to do. And whatever karma you create, you take with you to fix the next time. And karma carries interest, kind of like an investment. If the universe has to conspire to bring balance, and you're the one that caused an extra imbalance, there's interest that's coming back onto your plate. And I don't want to carry any more interest. I just want to carry my own. I don't want to have to repay anything. I want to have good dharma, not carry a whole bunch of karma.
You heard of the work? I might mispronounce her name. I feel it's called Vida, Vida, last name Austin, if I remember correctly. She's on Instagram and she does all these experiments with water where she's figured out this method of flash freezing water. So she'll take an image. For example, she did one of the experiments was a ballerina. She set the petri dish with water on top of it for 30 seconds and then took it off and flash froze it. And what it froze into was the exact same shape of the ballerina that was on the picture. Like, this is crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Water holds memory in ways that we can't even fathom.
And I haven't seen her research, but it kind of talks about like the Dr. Emoto research with kind of words.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, they did the double slit theory with quantum physics back in the 50s. You know that? This double split theory.
Is it the quantum entanglement?
It's not maybe entanglement. It's the double split is, and I believe, and don't quote me the date, but I believe it was in the 50s where they were taking electron and they had two slits.
Okay.
And when they were observed, and you can look this up, they would shoot the electrons, and when they were expecting it to go through one hole or another, the results when they were not observing, okay, that's the key. When they were not observing, they ran the test and then they looked at the results. They shot one electron and it went through both holes at the same time, creating a cross current pattern. As if, because it didn't pick one as a solid object, it went through both at the same time. And then when they shot the electron while they were observing, it only went through one hole. And so that's where they came in with the quantum reality of we literally are collapsing timelines with our minds and our thoughts, with what our intention is behind it to create the reality that we wish to see. Yeah, and I just, I'm still living here, going to work, paying my taxes, feeding my kids. I mean, that's a fun rabbit hole to go down, and it is. But and then great to take that knowledge of the water or the words or the numbers and okay, and how do I bring that wisdom to creating here on the everyday life that this Carrie Thorburn is right now? Do you know what I mean? Because all that knowledge stuff is great, but then we need to bring it down here and create it like the 8.
Yeah.
Right? Because then we can actually learn and grow from there more.
Right. I love this. Have you looked into ancient geometry and kind of the math behind these geometry shapes and the way that these shapes, basically how someone's geometric design can impact it? So kind of makes me think of one of the head doctors at my school. She has this ranch. It's called the Symbiosis Ranch. And the way that she has her garden beds designed is in geometric shapes. And the shapes of those garden beds play a role in how well things grow. It's so interesting.
I haven't gone that far into the rabbit hole in terms of, but if you look at even the old structures with the pyramids, there's a reason for everything and
Yes.
why things were placed the way that they are. And I think that might be a hidden,
pyramid energy.
yeah, there's a hidden wisdom, I think, that, is there to be found and discovered, and why it was buried in the first place would be the better question to kind of overall ask. And Tesla, spoke it best with.
Tesla units.
He's like, if you know these numbers, then you have unlocked the codes of the overall universe. And so, if when I was with my middle son, I went to the place down in Detroit, the Ford Museum, where they have all the houses. They move houses onto the plane. There's a train, and they go through the Edison Museum. It's. Oh,
I don't get out much, so.
You're fine. You need to. And your heart's desire. But we had gone to this museum, and they had this one place where they went through the Edison Museum, and the woman was describing, Edison, and then basically she went through the thing, and she goes, and this is how they meter it. And I looked at my son, and I said, that was the most important word she said out of the whole tour. He says, what? He goes, how they can meter it. He goes, why is that? I said, so they can charge you. Literally charge you. And if you do the research or the history on that, you look at, JP was really trying to make money, and that's who was funding Tesla in the first place. Edison made it into a form that he could make money on. Tesla wanted to give it freely.
Yes.
And so
Tesla was a threat.
He was an entire threat. And so it's amazing how people that start to speak up become a threat and are trying to be silenced. And so that's why with some of the creative stuff I'm going to start birthing out here is literally just disturbing the patterns that have been kept us locked in for as long as that we have on an old cycle and a pattern where we literally distract ourselves our whole life and pass away and never create and become the real true beings that we were meant to maybe come here and do. Am I going to be perfect? No. Is it going to be messy? Absolutely. I think messy is fun. It's real. It's authentic. It's real. It's juicy. It's divine. It's delicious.
So you know about the 369 with Tesla. So with the numerology, do you see a connection with a 3, 6, and 9?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at 3s in terms of creation, 6 about balance, and 9 is literally free release.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. That's very weird.
Letting it go.
Mm-hmm.
Free release.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
It also makes me think of, I can't remember how to do it now because it's been many years that I learned it, but it's called vortex math, and it's all about numbers 1 through 9, and like the pattern. It seems very complicated, but once you learn it, like a child would learn how to do it, but it literally creates a vortex formation in math, and it's all about just putting numbers in like a row. Like you'll do 1 through 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm trying to remember, and then you'll do like maybe 1 through 8 or 2 through 8. But anyways, kind of like creates a pyramid, but it explains vortex.
Well, and if you look at how flowers bloom, the spirals in
the golden ratio, I think.
The golden ratio, yep.
Mm-hmm. So interesting.
Again, that's fun, but I still got to pay my taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I still got to go to work, and I'm still existing here on this plane. So it's about learning the knowledge and then applying it to practical everyday life.
Yeah, I love all this metaphysical stuff. It makes me think of many years ago, probably like 10 years ago. I remember I went to a thrift store, and I went to the book section, and I had never even heard of the word metaphysical at this point. And I see these different books, mind you, they're not all next to each other. And I'm like, oh, this seems interesting. And I get home, never read them. Years down the line, one by one, those books get like suggested to me and how they're a metaphysical book. And I'm like, wait, I literally have that book. Like, what is going on? Every single one of them was. And there's so many weird, like, situations I've been where I'm thrifting or something like that, and I find some sort of, like, treasure like that ends up meaning something later on. Like, for example, I remember I found this shirt that had, like, the lotus symbol on it. And it had, like, some words on it, but I never paid attention to really what it was saying. It was like promoting some yoga thing. Well, then years later, my friend, she's like, hey, I'm going to this yoga festival. And I was like going through something at the time. So she knew that'd be a good thing for me to go and to do this. So I'm like, okay, I'll go. And they have this little like clothing thing set up there. And I walk in, it's literally the shirt is from this yoga festival that's like hours away. You know what I mean? And I bought it, but I didn't realize it until I get home. I'm like, I literally have this shirt. Yeah. I'm like, this is crazy.
So what got you into your studies? Anything specific?
Yeah. I think it all goes back. So way back in the day, I went to school for drafting design, and I wanted to do like engineering, right? And I remember my physics class. That's when I first learned about Nikola Tesla, and that's when I learned about quantum entanglement. And I'm like, wow, this sounds like such a romantic thing. Like, no matter how far two particles are, they act in unison. Like, that's just a very romantic thing to me. And so that made me go down like a rabbit hole about Nikola Tesla, right? And so it gave me like the base of understanding physics and quantum physics and kind of like the metaphysical realm. And then once I start, I had my son, and he had an adverse reaction to vaccines when he was younger. So I stopped vaccinating him. And so that was like my first into like the holistic of looking into something else. And that branched me into, going down the more natural path. And then during COVID, I got sick. I got COVID like everyone else did. And that was back when doctors were too afraid to see anybody. And so nobody could tell me anything to recommend to do to work with it. And so I reached out to one of my friends who is one of the most open-minded people that I know. And that's why I reached out to her for help. And I was like, hey, my heart hurts. It's kind of freaked me out. And she was like, I want you to consider reaching out to my cousin who's a holistic practitioner. And I was like, never heard of that. And she's like, yeah, I know you understand quantum entanglement. She does remote muscle testing, and it uses quantum entanglement, and it'll say what you need. And I was like, well, I have no other option at this point. Let's sign me up. And so I do it, and 2 or 3 days into taking what she told me to take, like all my symptoms stopped. And I was suffering for like over a month at this point. And so I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then after that, like a year later, I got a UTI for the first time. And so I didn't know what to do. And I was on vacation at the time. And so I waited till I got home, and then I get on antibiotics, and it didn't go away. And so long story short, a month of suffering with the UTI, going to the emergency room, taking time off, getting on so many different types of antibiotics, to get completely failed by the emergency room, where they take me off, and they're like, you just can't keep taking antibiotics anymore. We don't really know what's going on. And so I reached out to the woo-woo lady, right? And she's like, why don't you come to the first? I don't know what you can help me with. She's like, I want you to go to the health food store and buy a supplement called D-Manoids, and it'll make your UTI go away within 24 hours. And I was like, that sounds crazy, but sure, okay. I'm sure it won't work, right? It went away before 24 hours, and so I got really mad with the fact that I have this amazing health insurance, and I went to the medical system for a UTI, and I've been failed, and a $15 supplement from someone over the phone recommending it to me literally solved my problem. I was like, hold on. Mm-hmm. And then, interesting how everything happens in threes. Mm-hmm. My third time, which really made a shift, was after I bought my house, I had like a skin issue that happened on my face. And it was like around my eyes, under my nose. And I went to the dermatologist, and they're like, well, we don't really know. I could give you an antibiotic or a steroid cream. And they're like, maybe you're reacting to the fluoride in your toothpaste. Literally, that's what they said. I'm like, what? And so I go to her, and she's like, Amarah, you have parasites. And I was like, whoa, what? And so I ordered what she told me to take. Day 2 of taking what she said, they are coming out of me. I can't deny this. This is very much real. Mm-hmm. And that made such a huge impact in my health, going through that parasite cleanse. And I was like, all right, sign me up. I gotta do a career change. I gotta learn all this, because there's so many people suffering, and no one knows that there's these other options out there. So yeah, long story short, we're at the end of it. Yeah, that's Yeah, I feel like if I didn't have the base of like the physics and the quantum physics, I wouldn't have the drive maybe to be curious about this, because I feel like a lot of people without that base, it's hard to comprehend how this type of like energy work and whatnot can really help someone.
Well, some people don't really care to know.
Yeah, that's
that's the other thing, is that they're like, I just want it easy. I don't, and I too have had that health journey.
Mm-hmm.
I was 27 and I went to the ER room because I had apparently got completely backed up.
Oh.
I was in so much pain that they had to put me on morphine.
Oh my goodness.
And the doctor said, well, you just need to drink this magnesium drink and go home. And I'm like, well, why? What's causing it? So I pushed to go see a colon specialist. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, here's a pill. And I said, well, I'm 27. How long do I got to take this for? He goes, probably forever. I'm like, well, I'm 27. Why am I getting backed up? And that kind of led me into right next to my office was a brand new holistic person that was going in. And I thought, well, I'll just give it a shot. What's wrong?
Yeah.
Give it a try. And yes, a lot of, health issues that I didn't even know she helped kind of clear up. And my kids never got really sick ever again from that. Like if they had ear infections, I got garlic and mullein oil. Mm-hmm. Olive leaf does wonders for a lot of things. And so, I haven't really had a whole urge, when they asked me the other day, like, who's my primary doctor? I said my OB, because they kicked me out of my primary doctor because I never went there. Never had any issues, but it's good. I think that we'll see more of this, like your podcast, as it'll continue to grow and evolve, where people will look for alternatives.
Yeah.
And some of us that have actually been doing some of this for years are going to be the ones that have at least some of that base knowledge of, that's true. Yep, there's other ways of doing this. Eating and thinking right. You are what you eat and you are what you think, really does carry some resonance. And I think we'll see more of this as the years to come. The other thing too, and it does kind of deal with numbers, but maybe not in the way that we've been talking, but it's also fascinating to look at the work of Neil Howe. He wrote the book, The Fourth Turning.
Is his last name spelled Howe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he's the one that actually coined the millennials.
Ooh.
He does generational, like 100-year cycles.
Okay.
So in terms of numbers, that makes that kind of gets me excited, because he breaks down the 100-year cycle into, basically 4 pinnacles, very similar to the pinnacles of our life. And, based on kind of what has happened in the previous 100-year cycles, we're just towards the end of another 100-year cycle. And drawing on his, the last cycle and the new cycle and running through all that is very, very fascinating. That there will be a new birth coming is kind of what I'm saying. It's a newness of different ideas. The old is falling away. New stuff will come out, even if it's old stuff that's now the new stuff, and not anything that's like woo woo. I really think that a lot of this is just old wisdom that's been buried. I very much love the Native Americans and, with plant medicine. And so there is something, like I said, the numbers carry energy, plants carry energy, people carry energy, but if I'm going to draw an analogy of when you squeeze an orange, what do you get? Orange juice. If you run it over with a car, what do you get? Orange juice. Mm-hmm. So when people squeeze you, what comes out of you? Hopefully we're all orange juice and not negativity. Something sweet.
Makes me back to the number thing. How like people can control when their children are born, what date it happens on. So if you are playing God in that sense, how does that impact the way it shows up in the numbers? If you're intentional with it, is it the same?
That is a really good question. And I don't have obviously the answers for that. I will say that my first child, I was in labor for 24 hours. So there was no intention of having a cesarean, but I ended up having a cesarean.
Me too.
Okay. And so I think that there's some stuff to overcome when you have a cesarean. I mean, just kind of doing a little bit of research versus natural birth, but there was no room for her to come out. So, and what's interesting is she was born on January 11th, 2006. And when I add up her number, she's an 11. And had I had birthed her naturally the day before, she'd have a different energy vibration. So
Yeah.
I don't know. She was a normal size baby. My middle son was a 10-pound baby, and I'm a 5'2" thing. So there was no way I was pushing a 10-pound baby out. So he was a scheduled cesarean. But then my third child, knowing I've had 2 cesareans, I was probably going to have a third. Okay. And he was scheduled, but he wasn't getting enough food in the last month, and he was a month early.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a scheduled cesarean, and his birthday is February 14th. So I don't know. Like, I think sometimes you can think that you're playing God and get it scheduled. I think that if your birthday is supposed to be a different date, the universe will conspire to make you come early or later or right on time, one way or the other. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Makes me think also, like, when people are getting married, to maybe have like a different intention when you're selecting the date to get married on. It could, you never know.
And then sometimes the numbers just show up without you having to control anything, and it lands perfectly. I would say people getting married should be more worried about making sure they're marrying the right person than being on the right date.
But if we're all like making sure our house numbers vibration, let's apply it for everything.
You can go as far down the rabbit hole on the numbers as you want to go.
I'm sorry, we can't get married. Carrie. I don't like the vibration of that.
I mean, people kind of giggle, and I also like to listen to astrology because I think it is another tool. However, sometimes when they say, "Oh, don't sign any contracts during whatever retrograde," it's like, okay, my life is still moving forward no matter what.
Like, I follow those, and I'm like, you guys are starting to make me spiral. Yeah. I feel like we just did this dance like 2 weeks ago.
That's right. So I'll get the high level on the astrology just for like maybe what I need to like make sure I'm focusing on. But like, I don't base my life around my numbers. I don't base my life around astrology. And in fact, unwrapping the gift of like not knowing if you're having a boy or a girl really is the gift anyways, right? So it's about letting your day unfold. But if you're like really trying, if you're really struggling with something, maybe take a look at where you're at. Maybe you're in a 9 year when you're supposed to be letting go. Quit grasping to things that have already been dead and over with. Quit beating a dead horse. That would be a good tool to know to have, right? Like, okay, I probably should like let this go. So I think it's good to have as a tool in the toolbox, but I don't rule my life by the tools in the toolbox. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like sometimes I'll kind of like tune into the astrology just because I want to find a little bit of hope somewhere. That's fine. Yeah, I knew it. All right, we're good.
Well, and even if there's like stuff that's going on, I see it as scraps. I'm just throwing it in the garden so the worms have something to eat on, and I got black gold coming out at some point.
I did learn from, shout out to Dr. Shannon Smith. I remember her teaching me about astrology, and depending on like what month you're born and what month your parents are born, so like you're depleted in certain minerals depending on when you're born, because of the way that the minerals work with astrology.
Okay.
And then your parents are depleted in certain minerals, and they're what you inherit. And I was like, oh, interesting how that, more numbers in astrology.
The only mineral I need to keep getting more of is sleep.
Amen to that. Well, thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I'd love to talk and banter about other topics as well.
Yeah, I can't believe that I sent you the wrong street number. For those listening, I sent her the address, but I sent the wrong street number. The numbers mixed, and I'm thinking, oh, we finally have this memorized. I'm good. I don't have to check this. She texts me, she's like down the street. I hope it was not too far down the street.
I got to drive here. I didn't walk. So,
okay.
Yes.
It's a good distance.
But it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you and how you came to be here. I can't wait to listen to more of your podcasts and share them with some more people and get to maybe meet some more people within the circle that you have too. Because you've met with my friend Rosetta.
Yes.
She actually kind of has taken over for Gail. Gail Hauser was the homeopath right next door to my office.
She mentioned Gail. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Gail passed
A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And but she was right next door to my office. She was the one that introduced me, and so that's why the beauty of life unfolding.
Yeah.
It's just the series of coincidences. She just wanted to start learning her practice, and I was willing to take a jump because I didn't want to take a pill, so I would have to go regularly on a daily basis, you know. I also have a dear friend, that worked out of there, Nicole, and she did massage therapy. And so, but anyways, Rosetta was one of Gail's clients. And so I have my gifts and talents. Rosetta has her gifts and talents. Nicole has her gifts and talents. So does Susan. And so we have like our little sacred sister circle of girls. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I've read a lot of books. Take a little bit of that goes a long way. And it's just an interesting journey. So thank you for allowing me to share at least a little bit more about the basics of what I really enjoy, which is the numbers. And like I said, numbers by Carrie May. I can do some readings, but I really appreciate you being here, and I appreciate what you're doing because it really is going to make a big impact.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to make some changes. Look some people in the right way.
That's right.